Hey folks, welcome to the show. I know this is a bit early for a playoff preview, but since Colorado and Winnipeg are guaranteed opponents, figured I could do it because the first playoff game is supposed to be Saturday and the regular season ends Thursday, so I'm not going to have too much time in between. In fact, I think some of the other playoff previews might not be as in depth as this one, but I went ahead with it just because I don't think the next two games these two teams play are going to dramatically change predictions and stats too much. Obviously, you're still going to be stat watching Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar, among other guys, and Connor Hellebuck actually too. There's lots of talent here, but I figured, hey, let's just get into it, and because there's going to be a lot of previews to squeeze in between the end of the regular season and the beginning of playoffs. So if you were told at the beginning of the year that Colorado and Winnipeg were going to play each other in the playoffs, you would probably pick Colorado to win the series. I think vast majority of people would. But the story's a lot closer than that, especially as you go further to the right and look at their head-to-head record this year. But we're going to start from the left because that's how you read in English. We're actually going left and down, so that's not how you read in English. Bad example. Just go with me. The two teams have a pretty similar record. There's only a one-win difference between the two, with Winnipeg having that extra win. They have very different strengths, opposing strength, really. Colorado is best in the league when it comes to scoring goals. They score 3.68 goals per game, whereas Winnipeg is best in the league in not allowing goals. They're 2.41 goals against per game. It paces the league. A lot of that has to do with the two guys between the pipes, but specifically Hellebuck, but they have a pretty solid defense as well. Colorado is better at controlling the game in terms of shots. They both allow around the same amount of shots, but Colorado is better at getting shots. And they're also better at getting high-quality shots, too. The expected goals for and expected goals against. Here, I'll move my cursor so you can see where I'm at. The seventh and eighth column, they're from Hockey Reference because I know different sites have different formulas. Face-offs, they're about in the same area. Takeaway percentage, so the amount of takeaways that happened in a game that you did versus your giveaways. Winnipeg is better there, though if you look at the takeaway leaders, it's dominated by Colorado players. But this also has to do with giveaways as well. Hits and blocks, neither team does too much of that as a team as a whole, but there are obviously both teams are full of some individuals who are very capable at it. Power play and penalty kill is Winnipeg's weakness, whereas the power play is one of Colorado's best strengths. They're one of the best in the league at it, and they have a decent penalty kill at just over 80% success rate. I put shorthanded goals for and against there, but I don't think they mean too much here. I just figured we'd throw them in just if people were interested, but again, I don't think they'll play a huge part. I mean, yeah, okay, the game series goal could be a shorthanded goal, but I mean, I don't think a team's ability to score shorthanded is going to win a team the series. At least that's what the stats are telling me. You never know. That's what we love about hockey. Shooting percentage, both teams are in the top 50%, but Colorado's is in the top 10. The main difference here is goaltending. Georgiev has struggled. There's a team save percentage of .896 with 4 shutouts, whereas Winnipeg has the league best save percentage at just shy of .920. They have 2 games left. They could do it if they want. And 8 shutouts, doubling Colorado. So those are team stats, not individual stats, and they don't tell the whole story, but I didn't want to crowd this, and I already kind of did. But those are the key factors for me, is Colorado can score all they want against anyone else except Winnipeg. And I feel like Winnipeg might have the edge when you compare the two teams' successes here, but if you get into star power, which is what these point leaders and goal leaders, time on ice, takeaway, hit, block, and goal saved above expected leaders, the latter coming from Evolving Hockey, you can see where Colorado might get the edge, because of the top 10 combined point leaders, the top 3 all come from Colorado. They have 200-point scores, and their defenseman has nearly 90 points, Cale Makar, whereas Winnipeg's highest score is at 70 points. A respectable 70 points, not dissing that at all, but it is overshadowed by 3 Avs players. And similar story in goals, McKinnon and Rantanen are both 40-goal scorers. The former is at 51. Kyle O'Connor is at 32, which is great, and he hasn't played nearly as many games as some of these other guys, so maybe he would have gotten to 40, but as it stands, he's a 32-goal scorer. Speaking of guys who have had quite a few injuries this year or been out due to injuries, Nichushkin's at 26, and then there's a bunch of other 20-goal scorers, namely from Winnipeg. Velarde has 21 in 42 games or 40-something games, so maybe he could have been a 40-goal scorer as well. Time on ice leaders, Makar paces the pack at nearly 25 minutes because he's just amazing at everything. Morrissey isn't too far behind him thanks to his power play and quarterbacking abilities. Devin Toews, one of the better defensive defensemen in the league, follows Morrissey, and then the as forward pair, and then it's mostly Winnipeg players from there. Takeaway leaders, again, I did mention that while Winnipeg is more efficient with their takeaways in that they get less giveaways per takeaway, when you look at the takeaway leaders between the two teams, 7 of the top 10 are Avs players, including the top 3, including a diabolical 70 takeaways from Cale Makar, followed by 57 from Toews and 45 from Manson. The Colorado defense is very good at getting, and when I mean defense, not just defense as a whole, but defensemen are very good at getting takeaways. Sometimes in other teams you'll see usually forwards get more takeaways than defensemen, but that's not the case in Colorado. And that's not to say their forwards are getting takeaways either. Rantanen's at 43, McKinnon's at 41, Miles Wood is at 40, and Logan O'Connor's at 38 if he returns from injury. I didn't look into his injury news, but he hasn't played in quite a few months. Hits, Winnipeg is a more physical team. Of the 3 players between the two teams that have 200-plus hits, 2 of them are Winnipeg, which are the top 2, as you can see. Dylan with nearly 240 and Pionk at 218. Josh Manson's 210 is nothing to sneeze at, but he's once again followed by another 2 Jets players before there's a Colorado player who's also followed by 2 Jets players before the top 10 finishes with Wood and Appleton, just over 100 hits. Block leaders, more Winnipeg near the top, but the top is Cale Makar. He's the best shot blocker between the two teams this year at 146. He could get to 150 before he's followed by 3 Winnipeg players. So Winnipeg is better at playing the physical game from what I get from those 2 areas, but again, these are 2 different philosophies. Colorado likes the fast-paced style because they're very good with their sticks. They can be physical, absolutely, but they're much better at being fast and skilled. Whereas Winnipeg likes to slow things down and allow their best player and probably the Vezina winner, Connor Hellebuyck, lead it all. His goals saved above expected is above 40 per Evolving Hockey, and the second best goals saved above expected between the two teams is Winnipeg's backup at Laurent Brossoit. It's been a story of the season, Colorado's goaltending struggles. The hockey guy has consistently mentioned that he feels Georgia's struggles are related to overuse, which absolutely happens. That's been happening to goalies forever. But it still doesn't mean that this is where you want Georgiev. It's not going to excuse him. It's not like he's going to be magically better and rested in the playoffs. He might need a whole offseason. Obviously, he won't tell you that because he wants to play as he should, and as I would if I were him. Prosvetov has been okay as a backup, and Noonan has been excellent as a backup, but that's a very small sample size, and we've seen rookie goalies quite recently have a really good end of the year and even have a good games in the playoffs before not. And top of mind is Akira Schmid, who still could absolutely have a great NHL career ahead of him, but as it stands, he hasn't really recovered from, I believe it was a second round or something. I know he had a great end to the season. This was a couple years ago, or maybe even last year. Then he had a good couple games before it just kind of fell apart, which happens to young goalies. That's not a diss at all. So It's still, you could go either way between picking Colorado and Winnipeg, but the real tell of the story is over here. Well, there's two tales actually here, both that give you completely different opposite answers. The head-to-head record, the teams have played 3 games this year, and Winnipeg won them all. The closest game was a 4-2 victory, which was their first game. Winnipeg won the other one 6-2, and then the last one happened last week, 7-0. Winnipeg has comfortably controlled the Avalanche all year in their 3 matchups. Obviously, playoffs is a different beast, and it's a beast the Avalanche has had a much better success with lately. Their last trip of the playoffs did end in a Game 7 loss to the Kraken, but before that they won the Stanley Cup, as you may remember, and then before that they were able to win a round quite consistently before that Cup win. Jets are a different story. In the last 5 years, they've never won a qualifying round or a playoff round except for once in 2020-21 when Hellebuck absolutely had one of the greatest goalie series or greatest playoff series a goalie can have. I fully believe he swept the Oilers, not so much the Jets. The Jets played good, but I think everyone looking at that was Hellebuck. It was all Hellebuck. Not all Hellebuck. I don't want to diminish the Jets players, but he was incredible that series. But then the Jets found themselves swept by another goalie, Carey Price, by the Canadiens in the second round. So if you want to look at playoff history, you're going to look at the Avs as a favorable pick between the Jets and the Avs. But I'm really shocked by the fact that the Jets swept the Avs. Not that the Jets are a bad team, but they're pretty close in the standings. That's why they're playing each other in the playoffs. But for the Jets to have outscored Colorado 17-4 in their 3 games, probably telling. Now, the Avs could come and say, hey, we got swept in the series. Let's kick their butts in the playoffs. So, I'm not saying the Avs won't win at all. Anything can happen, and with how much parity there is between the playoff teams, I think there's going to be a few upsets. Statistically, choosing the Jets or Colorado isn't really an upset, but if you look at a lot of offseason projections, from last year, you might consider Jets beating the Avs an upset, but I don't think it is. Both teams are very good. And I would say that, according to common belief, Jets' style of play is more suited for a 7-game series. We've seen goalies carry teams in the playoffs a lot. I wouldn't call it the most important piece, but it could be any given day the most influential piece. You're not going to win the cup with a bad goalie, and you could win with a mediocre one. But Hellebuck is arguably the best goalie right now, and he did shut out the Avs in that game. So I'm kind of leaning towards the Jets, actually. I'm not going to say kind of. I am leaning towards the Jets. When I do I plan on doing a preview for each matchup and then going over my bracket kind of thing. And if you don't want to go look at the bracket video, my answer right now is I'm going to have to pick the Jets. I'm not going to say the Jets are going to sweep the Avs like they did in the regular season. I think the Avs will get 1 or 2 wins, but I don't think the Jets will need 7 to beat Colorado. I mean, technically you only need 4, but you know what I mean. I think the Jets will win the series in less than 7 games. I'm going to say 5. I'm going to say 5 games. Just I feel like the goaltending dynamic is too much in favor of the Jets, and once Hellebuck would slow down Colorado's game style, which forces the Jets' play style to come into play, and the Jets would therefore control the game and win, which has been the story all season in their 3 games. So I have to give the Jets the favor here. I do like the Avs quite a bit, so I wouldn't mind being too wrong, but at the same time, I got to give the Jets the credit here. I think they're going to win the series between these two. Anyways, let me know your thoughts down below. Please leave a like if you liked it or disliked if you didn't. That's fine. I'm trying to learn and be better and constructive criticism is certainly appreciated. I would invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications. That's a huge help for me, and knowing that what I'm doing is on the right path. I know it's not ideal, but I'd like to be on the road to an ideal presentation, and I think I am. But your feedback will let me know. So please leave feedback. Hopefully it's positive, but again, if it's constructive criticism, that's appreciated too. Anyways, that's it for me. I will see you tonight for a game review between the Sharks and the Oilers. And until then, I will have a great rest of your day, night, wherever you're at. I'll see you when I see you next.